Good afternoon, Nicole. Good afternoon. Welcome,
Good
welcome,
afternoon. Good
welcome.
afternoon. Hi.
So good to have you here with me on Around the World and Back with Alice Farrell. I am so glad that we're going to have this conversation. I know we had a few moments to kind of talk a little bit about you as an entrepreneur. I looked at some of your content, and so I'd love for the viewers to learn a little bit about you. As always, what I do is I just greet the viewers and then I will speak a little bit about you and then turn it over for you to introduce yourself. Okay? All right. So, again, everyone, here we are. Thank you for stopping by again with Around the World. I'm back with Dr. Alice Farrell. As you know, I am all about recognizing individuals in our communities who are willing to share their story, willing to share strategies and tips for youth, family engagement, community engagement, ways to dismantle institutional racism. I'm always interested in speaking to those who have taken on the positions of being an entrepreneur and founding different pieces of work. And in this interview, we're going to hear from Nicole Webster. And she's a dynamic and powerful woman of two little lovely boys. When I read her piece, she said loving boys. So I just want to put that out there. And Nicole, I am excited because you cut across industries, you cut across finance, the accounting world, and you cut across over in counseling. So the intersection of accounting and counseling, both industries, and then you're also in the production area. So I am just excited to begin this interview. So, Nicole, just tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of where you are right now with this piece that I've just learned about, Impact Academy. Tell us about Impact Academy.
Okay. Well, good evening. Good afternoon. Thank you, Alice, for having me. Once again, my name is Nicole Webster. I am a powerhouse, multifaceted individual with, yes, like you said, two loving boys that I am raising along with their father in a world that is just uh, going through so much at the current moment. But through what I'm realizing is through all of this heartache and pain and bad things that are showing up in our lives from day after day is that there's hope and there's light at the end of the tunnel. And this is only for the time because we know that joy comes in the morning. So we do believe that things will turn around and things will get better. As you stated before, my journey in life started with accounting. So accounting was basically what I went to college, my undergrad for, and that was based off of my upbringing and watching my aunts and them all having accounting degrees. So I felt as though that's the avenue and that's the path that I should take. That turned into me realizing and really sitting down with myself and saying, well, what is my purpose in life?
Mm,
What is it that God blessed me with uh, to really do? And then I found it so that counseling is really my gift. Where I went to school, went to St. Joe's, and I got my master's degree in community counseling. And then fast forward to 2020 when the world shut down. The
mm,
world shut down and it was working from home, teaching from home, not going anywhere. For me personally, the only thing that I really was leaving the house to do was to go to church. And it was to go to church not only to just worship and hear God's word, but to also make sure that others who are on lockdown and are were at home at the time were able to still be in the presence of the word and still be able to worship and still be able to see a Sunday service every week. So I am a member of Impact Church International here in Hartford, Connecticut. And as a member, and through this pandemic, as you asked me, what about this Impact Academy? So Impact Academy was birthed during the pandemic amongst myself and four other young ladies that are also members of Impact Church International, where one woman came to me because I am also, I forgot to mention, I'm the director of protocol for our church. And she came to me with this vision that she had about creating a school for people that look like us, not only like us, but just for our community.
Mhm.
And so she thought her idea was too big. And just literally, like, I know this is crazy, Nicole, but I'm thinking, what if we started a school? And she was like, I know, not right now. It sounds crazy. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Kids are home and it's virtual. And, maybe we can't do it now. And I turned to her and I told her, why not? This is the perfect
Mm.
time. Like, let's go forth and let's do this. So we went ahead and we had a meeting with our pastor, and he was like, this was a vision of his for a long time, but he never in his life imagined that this will be happening right now. So he gave us the okay to go forth, and we sat together and we was like, who could we call on? So we knew certain individuals that we wanted to be on board with her vision, and we brought them on board, and Impact Academy was birthed. So basically, Impact Academy fosters a compassionate community of enthusiastic and courageous learners in an environment that cultivates the academic and spiritual growth while nurturing their God-given creative brilliance and drive for success, propelling them to become impactful individuals. So that is our goal with opening an actual school. So we have meetings every week. Our anniversary, or what we call the day that we actually sat down and started planning this, was only in August of last year. And from August to currently, we have already started our tutoring. We started with tutoring. So we have free tutoring services for you don't have to be a member of our church. You don't even have to be affiliated with anything to do with the Christianity. We don't turn anyone away. We are just here to help our community and our young ones. So we have tutoring. We've had a toy drive. We've had book bag drive. Right now, we are in the process of completing our first SEL program for grades
Woo!
3 through 5. So, and then we have brought on board some people within the community, principals, and people that are well involved in curriculum writing and grant writing. So we're building our foundation now to eventually embark on this new journey of actually opening those walls.
Wow, wow. Nicole, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm excited for a number of reasons, and I want you to be able to expound on some of this as I kind of think about what you've just shared. So the first thing that came to mind is equity. Equity in education, educational equity. And we know that there is so much in terms of the disparities that so many youth and students of color are experiencing. We know the opportunity gap. The research is in, it's been in for a long time, where the young people are in terms of English, in terms of mathematics, and in terms of all of the STEM related courses. And when I'm hearing you say that you are offering the free tutoring, you are offering it to anyone. You want to see the success of these young people. You want to offer this to those in the communities. I am so happy about that. And again, the other piece that is that I'm excited about is the fact that you are willing and you're looking to cultivate this. The reason for that is that over the last several months, I have met with so many parents. I've listened to so many family advocates speak about the challenges the parents have been having with understanding the work that the students have to do, with balancing home life, remote school, hybrid school learning processes, the frustration that they themselves encounter when they don't know how to support their children. And then on top of that, we have also heard about the increase in mental health issues around the parents not feeling like they can support their children, help with the self-esteem, help with the academic development. So just knowing that you have put forth this out there, it's just, I'm so happy about that. The other piece I want to mention is with the social emotional learning. You mentioned the SEL program 3 to 5. That component is so essential right now. It was always important. If we're thinking about academic progress, we need to think about social and emotional skill sets and the development of that, because that's essential for the academic growth, right? You came out of the now University of St. Joseph College then, and you have a full background and degree, master's degree in counseling, community counseling, right? So you understand the importance of the social emotional learning and the intersection with academic learning. From that standpoint, I am ecstatic. Can you share just a little bit more? I know you're looking at curriculum design and development, but share a bit more around your thinking about SEL.
Okay, so like you said, I have a counseling background. So for me, when we initially started talking about social emotional learning, the first thought for me is we're in the middle of a pandemic and children have been told that they cannot go to school. All interactions with their friends have been cut off. All interactions with their teachers have been cut off. Not only from a child's perspective, but from an adult's perspective, we as adults have mentally have gone through so much. So can we imagine what a child is going through mentally, hearing on the news about a disease that we cannot control, saying now you have to walk around with something over your mouth. You cannot speak, you cannot talk to your friends, your peers, and just being snatched and overnight. It wasn't like a progressive thing. It was just like one day you were in school and the next day you were told that you cannot go back to school. And then there was no inkling of when things were going to go back to normal or if things would ever go back to normal. So for me personally, as a counselor, if you're not good mentally first, there's no way that you can progress academically. So we need to tap into the social emotional skills and the social emotional learning aspect of things to make sure that mentally you are okay. Not only the child, but the parent. Because if the parent isn't okay, then there's no way that the child will be okay. One thing that I've always stuck with me from all of my education was the fact that one of my professors said to us that when you go on an airplane and they tell you if you're with your child or a young child or not, the first thing, if anything goes wrong on the plane, and the first thing that you're supposed to do, you're supposed to put the mask on your face first. Right. Most people would say, no, well, I need to protect my child, but no, you need to protect yourself first, because in protecting yourself first, you're well enough to protect them. So in our thinking, we were like, okay, let's go back to the foundation. Let's make sure mentally our children or whoever is a part of Impact Academy is okay. Let's check in with them. It's a lot to take on right now. So if we can get them to a point where they're mentally okay, then feeding them the educational aspect of things and teaching them will come. It will come together. There's no ifs or buts about it. I know that would come, but mentally and emotionally, it's key for us. We feel as though get our kids in a mental position where they feel good about themselves and they're no longer stressed, worried, or concerned about anything else, so that they can focus on their academics.
Nicole, thank you for sharing that. And generally, during the interview process, I pause sometimes just to speak to viewers. So I'm going to pause just for a moment here and just speak to viewers here. As Nicole just mentioned and eloquently stated, the social emotional piece, the mental health piece of children is critical. It's critical for their ongoing progress when it comes to academic achievement. It's critical for their social development. It's critical for them to be able to understand how to empathize with others, how to take on different perspectives of others, how to calm themselves, regulate their emotions. All of that is essential, especially when they're going to learn new information, especially when they're going to be tasked with taking exams and tests and standard exams and quizzes. It's really important. So many of the children have experienced loss and separation due to the trauma and the death of loved ones. So from that standpoint, everything Nicole just mentioned is critical. So thank you, Nicole, so much for putting that on the platform. So Nicole, I want to go back for just a moment. You mentioned bringing in principals and designers, curriculum designers. So you're really thinking about all aspects that need to be present to have a quality social emotional learning curriculum. Can you speak just a little bit both about the way you're going about engaging individuals, and then also how are you getting individuals connected that can cultivate the kind of atmosphere that you're actually trying to get for your students and families?
Okay, um, so for us in the beginning, it was like, okay, well, who are we going to cater to? What's our population going to look like? And then for us, we were kind of concerned in the beginning where it was like money is a big thing.
Mhm.
And if you don't have the funding, then you can't really do that much. So relying on our faith, we decided we're going to go the private sector way, but on top of the private sector way, because we don't want people to pay. At the end of the day, the funding is what really pushes your whole agenda. So for us, it was a hard decision to decide if we were going to pursue going help funding, getting funding, or not getting funding. But because we're so passionate about having our curriculum based with Christianity and a different twist to how the normal charter schools or public schools operate, we decided that we wanted to look into private, but somehow do it private where the community that we are trying to serve wouldn't have to worry financially. As we know, in our community, it's hard for people nowadays, especially now with this pandemic. People have lost their jobs. There are single mothers out there, single fathers out there, and it's hard on a parent on a whole to say, okay, I want to send my child to the school, but I don't have the proper funds to do that. So right now we're doing a lot of research. We're doing a lot of research. We're seeking a lot of guidance from individuals that have a lot of experience with curriculum writing, have a lot of experience with building schools, whether it be charter schools or even public schools, just reaching out to individuals within the community to kind of steer us in the right direction so that when we're ready to actually break ground or when we're ready to actually start building our curriculum, we have at least a guided force behind us.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So, Nicole, thank you for sharing that journey. One of the things that I've been noticing is that a number of individuals in our communities are moving in that realm of entrepreneurship, pushing and saying, yes, we're in COVID-19. Yes, we're going through a pandemic, but I see an opportunity and they're building from the vision that they've seen. And so this entrepreneurship piece, I've seen a number of platforms where they're encouraging individuals to think about beginning. And even while they have their regular job, their day job, so to speak, if you have a dream, if you have a vision, to go ahead and explore and do exactly what you're saying, Nicole, to do your adequately research your topic, your subject, what you want to do, who's going to be your market, where the funding is coming from, what is your business plan, and so on. So I'm glad that I'm getting to interview you in the beginning process. And so at some point, I get to interview you when you break ground again. All right? So I will definitely outreach to you for that piece. So now, Nicole, I want to go back to something you mentioned. You said you pursued accounting. And it's based on watching your aunts. They were accountants, and you thought that that's what you wanted to do. And then you sat down. There was a point where you sat down and asked the question of what is your purpose? And then you felt that your purpose was counseling, that you were gifted for that. So many young people, such as yourself, I know you're a young entrepreneur out there, and there's so many who are like you, who are just not certain which road to take. What was that journey in coming to that space where you pause to do that self-reflection? What was that like? And how would you encourage a young person out there right now who might be in that space?
For me personally, it was a lot of prayer.
Mm.
Always been, always been brought up in a home where we went to church on Sundays. My grandmother preached the word to us all the time. I remember as a young child coming home from school and learning different stories in the Bible, because she would sit down and she would just tell us these stories. And at that young age, it was just like in one ear, out the other ear, and I didn't quite understand. But then as you got older, or as I got older, and I went through different experiences, pain, heartache, whatever it may be, even graduating college and being in school and it being difficult, I learned through that journey to have my own relationship with God. So I was able to pray and meditate. And so for me, in that moment, something happened, and I was just like, just going with the motions, waking up every day, going to work, coming home, doing it all over again. And just something in me happened, and I was just sat down one day at my desk, and I was just like, I had that urge. I just wanted more. I wanted more. I wanted to feel more fulfilled. So what I had to do is I just sat down and I just had to pray. So what I would tell any young individual that's out there now trying to figure out what to do next, I would tell them to really sit down, find a quiet place, whether it be in your home or in the park. I love water, near water, and just sit down. And I promise you, things would just start coming to you. The words, the anything, everything would just start coming to you. Because really, what I've learned through my pastor is that your talents will make way for you. Your talents and gifts will always make way for you. So think about the things that you're good at. What are you really good at? And then most importantly for me is that I realized, what is it that you would do that you wouldn't even ask for to get paid for, because you enjoy it that much. You enjoy it that much that you would just do it for free. And once you figure out what that is, then that's one step in the right direction. You're going to definitely know, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Nicole, thank you for putting that out there. Very helpful. I can imagine others are going to find it helpful. Let me now tap into something. You mentioned purpose again, and then you mentioned doing something that you wouldn't mind doing without getting paid for, right? There is another aspect to your life, and that's around production, that I want to jump to now. And so the viewers understand, when I looked at your bio and the information you sent to me, I saw quickly, all right, accounting, finance, work for the state of Connecticut, looking over now into the Impact Church International, and then the education piece, the entrepreneurship. But then I started to see pieces around the production, and then the wedding coordination piece, and birthday parties, and all of this. So unpack that for us. Let the viewers hear about you in those different roles now.
Okay, so I'm going to read, and I thought about this, and I said, you know what, I'm going to share this letter with the viewers. So well, let me back up. So I did my counseling, and then in order to be licensed, you have to do a certain amount of hours. And as you stated, I work for the state. So working a 9 to 5 and having this little side counseling thing, I used to do per diem. Then I had children, and it got difficult to juggle both careers at the same time. So financially, I had to let my dreams kind of dwindle off on the side and continue with my 9 to 5. So in the back of my mind, I always used to question God and ask, well, why is it that you had me go and get this degree? Why is it that counseling is my purpose, but I'm not really working in it? What am I doing? But then COVID happened, and through COVID, I was able to sit down and really think about the fact that I use my degree every day with people in general.
Yes.
So the entrepreneurship aspect of my life that you speak of is my 3M Productions. 3M Productions. And what happened is I birthed this, I just turned 40 last year. And for my birthday, I announced this new business venture that I opened up. And what I did was I wrote a letter to all of my closest friends, because at the time I couldn't celebrate with everyone that like I wanted to. I wanted to have this big party, invite family, friends, everyone I knew, and announce this big news to everyone. But unfortunately, we were capped at a number. So what I did instead is I wrote a letter to each of my close friends, and the letter basically explains where the production piece came from. So it begins and it says, 3M Productions LLC was birthed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Having to be on lockdown and forced to stay home for months on end, I was able to think about my gifts and talents. With more and more creative event planning and project managing, it was evident that I should finally start my own event planning, coordinating, and creative directing business. My spiritual walk and talk with God led me to the name 3M Productions LLC. The number 3 signifies many things, and the M stands for my first initial in my children's names. Their names are Michaela, Mason, and Maverick, 1 girl and 2 boys. Here's the deeper meaning to the 3 and the overall name of my business. I had a daughter, March, the 3rd month of the year in 2004. As you know, she passed away during birth. I believe this business is to also honor her and allow her name to live on. My other 2 living children, as I stated before, Mason and Maverick, are my M&Ms, sweet and full of love. Lastly, because I believe that this business came to life through my faith in God, the 3 also represents the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. 3M Productions provides event planning, coordinating, and creative directing services for social and corporate events. Clients leave with more than just an event. You come in as a client and leave with a coach in the process. This is my testimony that through pain, darkness, something beautiful can come to light. I vow to show people that in the midst of darkness, something beautiful can come out of it. This is so you can show others the goodness of God, for he called you out of the darkness into his wonderful light. So that's how 3M Productions actually started. I was doing stuff within the church and creating events through a pandemic on a virtual side and in-person following guidance, the CDC guidance, and this all kind of came together.
Wow, wow. Nicole, thank you so much. I am glad that you read that letter for the viewers. I'm so glad because at this point, we know that there's so many experiencing the despair, hopelessness, experiencing the loss, the separation, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the seemingly as if they cannot get out of this area or this space where everything seems gloomy. And that is the reality of where we're living now, right? And so both nationally and globally. And so just hearing your words through that letter, it speaks hope. It speaks of hopefulness. It speaks of a light. It speaks of what you started out with, saying that when we began the interview about being hopeful and holding on to hope. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm hoping with all of my heart that someone that's viewing will take those words of encouragement where you share about pain, suffering, darkness, and those kinds of things, but being able to see how something great can be birthed out of that space. And we can hope for that for each and every one of us. So let me put it back to now, one of the things, and it was the worship en blanc. I did, I reviewed and I took a look at your content there. And I do want to understand, how did you and your group work within the CDC guidelines? You wanted to make sure that there's this production goes on, these events happen within COVID, within a pandemic, and making certain that you're also following regulation. Can you speak to the coordination? All of that went into that?
Oh, yes. So my pastor had a great idea. This was before COVID even happened. He had always wanted to take what people have known, Dinner en Blanc. So Dinner en Blanc is like a worldwide event where people come out in their white and they bring their foods and they have a picnic in different random locations. So he turned that, what he had learned about that event, and he turned it into Worship en Blanc. So he wanted to create the same kind of platform, but instead bring it from the church aspect of it. So we went from Dinner en Blanc to Worship en Blanc. So, but this was during a pandemic. So we literally had to follow all of the guidelines. So first we looked up all of the guidelines and we're like, okay, well, where could we have this event and still follow the guidelines? And at that moment, this was last summer, things were able to still be done outside. So we said, okay. So I said, okay, let's do this outside. Let's pick Bushnell Park. Bushnell Park is a wide open filled grass. Let's see what the city would say. So I had to contact the city of Hartford, and I contacted them, and I had to fill out an application and basically let them know that, okay, our max number, we were told our max number of individuals will be 500. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, it was 500 people. We have to be able to monitor how many people are coming versus like who would just pop up and show up. So what we did was we had 500 seats available. We had an Eventbrite set up so that we can monitor and see who was coming or who had a ticket. So then what I did was, it's a park. So a park is wide open. So how can I monitor how many people are in the park? So basically what I had to do was drop a diagram, and I had to also show the city that this is how we're going to make this work. So we were able to use the stage in the Bushnell Park. And then for me, I barricaded, or I had tents outline a frame for us. So every tent had what we call eye care. Eye care is our like ushers. So I had 2 people to each tent with hand sanitizer, temperatures, and gloves and masks for every person, just in case. In our Eventbrite, we did mention that you had to wear your mask. I had the chairs measured out. There were days where I would go to the park and have my little measuring wheel and measure out how the chairs were going to be positioned. So the day of, my team and I woke up early. We got to the park. We had the people deliver the chairs. We measured them out. We had the tents measured out to a certain distance and around the frame, so that those that were beyond the tent, those were our numbers, our 500 number. But we couldn't avoid other people walking in the park. It's a public park, but it was okay because they were on the hills or they were beyond the barrier that we had. So that was good. And then we had a VIP tent for those that were performing, and we had a tent for staff and workers. And we just basically made sure we had all of the hand sanitizers, the gloves, the masks, all there, and everyone made sure to send emails to everyone that had a ticket. You will be seated 6 feet apart. You will have to wear masks throughout the whole event. And God blessed us, and everything went well. And it was a great day.
I saw some beautiful pictures posted. And Nicole, as I was listening to you, it felt so good. It felt good because during a time of isolation, during a time of social distancing, physical social distancing, we know that mental social distancing actually ties in. And some may confuse the two, and it really gets into a space where such a high percentage of individuals are identified as being lonely. So right here, as I'm listening to you, I can imagine what that must have been for people who were able to come out and feel safe, feel that you're kept, the regulations intact, you're kept, and made sure that they had the distance, had the mask available, the hand sanitizers, the temperature check. I mean, that has to be historic in terms of having it down at the bush now. It just feels so good. Can you share any thoughts or anything individuals have shared about any impact that might have had?
Oh my goodness, we got a lot of feedback from that event, because not only were we able to touch people that actually came physically to the event, but we were also able to touch those individuals that were able to watch virtually. So we had 2 platforms. Not only were you, just because you weren't unable to attend physically, we made sure that we were able to broadcast live. So we have people all over the world, all over the United States, from all over watching, even as far as Africa. People were able to tune in and watch, and they were blessed to the point where even the individuals that were able to attend physically, just to see them in the crowd standing up and dancing and singing and worshiping in their seat in all white. everyone followed the protocol. Everyone followed the guidelines where we asked everyone to please come in all white to this event. And it was amazing. It was beautiful. We had drone footage where you could see from above the setup, from the setup to actual service. And then the preaching segment was amazing. It just took it to another level where people at that point had been home for months. So for some people that was their first time being out, but it took them to where they needed to be. They found that comfort or that piece of hope that they needed to know that everything is going to be all right. So it was a great event.
Nicole, thank you. I'm thinking about communities and being working in the communities for so many years and also being a minister in the body. The relevance of the church, the faith community to the communities, and being able to be there for members of the communities at a time like this. I just feel so good about this and hearing how you're describing it. Let me ask you now, still with the fact that you are here with the Impact Church International, there was another piece that I saw on the document you sent me, and it was Light Up the Night, Impact Your Vote. That piece intrigued me because even while we're going through COVID-19, we know we have this civil unrest. We know there's voting suppression activities going on. And as I read it, it sounded like this was a focus. You wanted folk who were not registered to get out and register. And can you speak a bit about how you'll conceptualize and design what this would actually look like and what impact, if any? Please take it away.
Yes. So within our church, we have another sector called Impact Kids, and that's our kids sector. And the director of that sector, she came to me and she said, we need to do something about voting. We need to have an idea or an event around getting people to come out and vote. And so I was thinking, and I said, well, it's October and, there's trick-or-treating and kids are into candy and all those type of things. And so I came up with the idea of, why don't we do a night event? And they had just finished painting the mural in Bushnell Park with Black Lives Matter. And I said, we should have an event on the Black Lives Matter strip and we should call it Light It Up. And she's like, light it up. I said, yes, light up the night, impact your vote. Because I took the name of the church and I kind of threw it in there. So I was like, yes, light up the night, impact your vote. And then we're going to call the voter registration people and we're going to have them come out and we're going to tell people to come on out and bring their kids if the kids want to dress up. And because Halloween was snatched from them again. Like kids, they like Halloween. They like to go get dressed up in their costumes and get candy and stuff. And I said, well, we usually do trunk or treat where instead of promoting Halloween, we would open the trunks of our cars and put candy in them and kids would come by. But now we're in the middle of a pandemic. So I had to creatively think, well, what can we do that's different and still include voting? Because right now we're going through a phase of police brutality. George Floyd just happened. All these police killings, and it's like, okay, and then we had a president that was just off the chain. And so we were like, okay, how can we intertwine all of these different aspects and get kids to come out? Because if the kids come out, the parents have to bring the kids. So let's get them out. So we said, okay, light it up. We're gonna have it in the evening. We're gonna have glow sticks. We're gonna have glow lights. We're gonna have candy that glows up. We're gonna have lights on the tables, and we're gonna light up that whole Black Lives Matter street. And we're gonna bring the voter registration people out. We're gonna have a stage. We're gonna have different speakers come out and speak. We're gonna have different people to perform. So they came up. We had hot chocolate, popcorn, and then at some point, people were just in the park and they were coming over like, what's going on? What's going on? And they would come over and they signed up. We had a few people sign up to vote. So we accomplished our main goal, but putting a twist on it.
Wow. Nicole, I landed my eyes on this event motto. Don't be tricked by the politics.
Yes, I came up with that. I said, yeah, don't be tricked by the politics. And she's like, I love it. We should use it. So I said, okay, let's do it.
I love it. I love the pivoting. I love the creativity. COVID-19 couldn't stop you all from moving forward. You know that civic engagement is critical. It's critical to get the young folk involved in civic duties around voting, around participation, in all of the things that happen from state, local, national levels. So I am so excited that you and your team and your pastor found a way to pivot to be part of your community during COVID-19 and to be part of the work to push for voting and to push to let folk know that their voice matters. So thank you, Nicole, for sharing all of that. I do want to just tap two more things. Um, you also have here that around producing and rescripting Christmas plays. That seems to be a big thing that you do. And I do want to touch on the one aspect of your Black History programs. That the one that I saw is Black Excellence through Education, and honoring the historical Black colleges and the Black Greek letter organizations. So if you could just share with the viewers, again, it's just an opportunity for them to hear about the work that you do and to be motivated and inspired to also think about what their gifts are and how they can contribute during a time when we're going through COVID-19 and post-COVID. So go right ahead, Nicole.
Okay, so firstly, for my accounting degree, I attended a historically Black institution. I went to Virginia State University. So for Black History Month, it was last year, right before COVID really hit. And mind you, we are a new church. Our church is only like a year old, January that just passed. So we had just started and we were like, well, we need a Black History program. What are we going to do? And we came up with the idea of honoring HBCUs and the Greek organization, as our pastor is part of the Divine Nine. So what we did was we wanted to include our kids. So what we did is we researched a bunch of HBCUs. And what we also did is we reached out to the community to get the community involved. And we found a drill team and a band to actually come into church service and perform. So our impact, I call them the impact kids, were able to also be part of this performance where some of them danced, some of them stepped, because we wanted to show all aspects of the HBCU life. And then we also presented at the same time. So what we did was we had each student hold up the name of an HBCU. And while they held up the name of an HBCU on our projector screen, you would see someone, a celebrity or someone famous or someone they could connect with that actually went to that school. And then we spoke about the key points of that school, when it was founded, who it was founded by, and where it was located. And it went to Andrea Day's song, I'll Rise Up. So on every beat, a child stood up and had the name of a school on their poster, and the other child would sit down and the screen would show a picture. And of course, our pastor also went to HBCU. So he attended Morehouse College. So when Morehouse College came up, we had his son hold Morehouse College, and his picture went up so that kids could understand and see that. I know, especially in Connecticut, I know for me personally, I knew nothing about HBCUs. It was never talked about. It was never a thing to say, oh, go to a HBCU. What is a HBCU? I was fortunate enough to have someone come to my high school and introduce me to it. So I was able to have the opportunity to go forth and attend a HBCU. So as a graduate or alumni of a HBCU, I feel like it's my duty to pay it forward and do the same and introduce, or at least encourage and let other children that look like me know about these schools so that they could have this once in a lifetime opportunity to attend a school like this and just grasp the concept of what it really feels like to be amongst your people.
Wow, wow. Nicole, I'm grinning because as you're speaking about this, of course, I'm thinking about a couple of my children who went to Howard University, right? Yeah, yeah. So I'm so glad that you brought that out and sharing with young people exposing them. There are a number of individuals across high school programs and so on, but thinking about the faith community and you doing this within the church setting, I'm just loving it. The piece that I want to tap into is you mentioned community engagement, and that's a piece that is dear to my heart. You brought it, you engage the community and brought folk in. Can you share just a little bit about that? Just that process of engagement.
Yes. Okay. So for me, I don't know, I just knew in my mind what I wanted the program to look like. And I knew we were highlighting HBCUs, and being a product of an HBCU, I wanted to show others what life, a snippet, just a snippet of what life was like attending a HBCU. And for me, I was a part of the band. I didn't play an instrument, but I was a dancer, and then I was a flag girl. So I was a part of the band, and I wanted people to realize and see that aspect of actually going to a HBCU. And in that, I was like, okay, well, if I could just get, and then not only on top of that, but on top of that, I wanted to also reach out to the community to get them in the door of the church. Like some people, they're not big on Christianity, they're not big on faith, they're not big on the whole church sector. But for me personally, I just needed them to just one time, just get in the doors one time. And I promise you that I just felt like one person, if one person comes back, that's my goal, just to get one person to come back to see how our church was maybe a little different from other churches, and just to get them in. Whereas if the child is coming, the child has to get there, so a parent has to come. So I thought about, okay, well, who in Hartford, I know there's a marching band that kind of portrays the HBCU marching band life. And I did my research and I found them. I forgot their name, Black Purple Radiance, or mistakenly I forgot their names, but I reached out to them and they were like, oh, absolutely, we'll definitely come. And they brought their dancers, they brought their drum line, they brought their flag, they brought everything. They came with the whole nine, and they came into the church, and oh my goodness, everyone was standing. And some of them they came back. And it was just amazing to see that actually, in my mind, it actually worked for people to actually come in the doors. I promise you, you're going to be like, wait a minute, this feels good. I need to come back and hear a little bit more and see what this is about. So that was like my thought process behind the whole program, was to also just show what HBCU life was like. And at the same time, just get people in the community, in our doors, just to see a glimpse of what it is like to be in these church doors. And then I knew they would come back.
Wow, wow. Nicole, thank you so much. When I think about sometimes at the various tables that I sit, sometimes some may ask, where's the faith community? Where is the faith community? They're not at the table. But listening to you, the faith community is definitely at the table, in the community, doing work, engaging, providing a service, multiple service on the spiritual end, but also in terms of the education end and the recreational, and the culture, the pieces around culture and exposure. Sounds like you're doing a great job with that. So with that, Nicole, I am going to transition just for a moment, and this will wrap up the interview. I'm going to pause for a moment and just speak to the viewers. At this juncture, I'm certain that you've got a good picture of Nicole Webster, and I'm going to ask her to share if you would like to contact her, how you can get a hold of her. So Nicole, just share how they can contact you, and then I'll ask you the few other questions I have, and then we'll wrap it.
Okay, so if you want to contact me based off of event planning, event coordinating, you can email me at 3mproductionsllc@gmail.com. If you're interested in our Impact Academy, what we have to offer, you can email us at impactacademyk12